All right, our story kicks off in the 1970s with a medical mystery, one that would basically flip our entire understanding of fat and heart health on its head. It's all about a group of people who, if you just looked at their diet, should have had the worst hearts in the world. But they didn't, not even close. And that leads us to the big central paradox that had scientists scratching their heads for years. I mean, how on earth could a diet that's just loaded with fat and cholesterol lead to some of the lowest rates of heart disease ever recorded? This one question, you guys, set off a chain reaction that completely reshaped nutritional science as we know it.
So, to find the answer, we have to go back. We're heading to 1970s Greenland, home of the Inuit people and the very heart of this incredible puzzle. What is so wild is that this diet flies in the face of everything we were told was heart healthy. It was literally the opposite of the low-fat plan everyone was pushing. It was packed with fat from seals and fish, and had almost zero fruits, vegetables, or fiber. And yet, heart attacks were practically a non-issue for the Inuit. So, as you can imagine, this observation sent a couple of Danish researchers, Jørn Dyerberg and Hans Bang, on the scientific adventure of a lifetime. They spent the better part of a decade just meticulously studying the Inuit people. Their first paper back in '71 confirmed the mystery. Yep, their cholesterol levels looked good. But it was their later work that really zeroed in on the secret, leading to a landmark hypothesis in 1978 about a very special kind of fat.
And Dr. Dyerberg himself said it best. When they crunched the numbers on all the usual suspects like cholesterol, it just didn't add up. The difference wasn't nearly big enough to explain this huge gap in heart disease. They knew there had to be something else, something hiding in the blood that was giving them this amazing protection.
And that brings us to the big aha moment. The smoking gun, the critical clue that was hidden in their blood all along. And here it is. This was the breakthrough. When they actually analyzed the specific types of fat in their blood, the difference was absolutely staggering. The Greenland Inuit had 7 times more of a specific omega-3 called EPA than the Danes did. This was the giant flashing sign they had been looking for.
So what exactly are these things, EPA and DHA? Well, they're long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, and they're called essential for a really good reason. Our bodies are just awful at making them. We have to get them from our food. And the best source, you guessed it, fatty cold water fish.
This discovery really blew the doors open on how fats actually work. It turns out there's a constant battle going on inside our cells, a fierce competition between 2 very different families of fatty acids. Think of it like this. Omega-3s and another type of fat, omega-6s, are rivals. They're both trying to use the exact same tools, the same enzymes, inside your body. And whoever wins that fight determines whether your body's response is to fan the flames of inflammation or to put them out.
Okay, so let's meet the 2 opposing teams. On one side, you've got your omega-6s, which we get mostly from common vegetable oils. They create compounds that promote inflammation and make your blood platelets stick together, which can lead to clots. And on the other side, you've got the hero, omega-3s, from fish oil. They do the exact opposite. They're anti-inflammatory and they make platelets less sticky, which is great for preventing clots.
And this brings us right back to Greenland. The reason the Inuit were so protected is because their blood was just saturated with EPA, making it incredibly resistant to clotting. Their arteries were safe. Now, the interesting little side effect of this was that this powerful anti-clotting effect also meant they got frequent and sometimes pretty bad nosebleeds.
So why does a story about Greenland in the 1970s matter so much to us right now? Well, because that delicate balance between omega-6 and omega-3, it has been completely and totally thrown out of whack in our modern diet. 16-to-1. That one number says it all. In the typical Western diet today, for every 1 gram of omega-3 we eat, we're eating, on average, 16 grams of omega-6. That is a massive, massive shift. You know, for most of human history, our diet had a much healthier ratio, maybe something like 4-to-1 or even better. But over the last century, with the explosion of processed foods and industrial seed oils like corn and soy oil, that ratio has just gone through the roof. For some people, it's as high as 40-to-1, which basically puts the body in a constant state of low-grade inflammation.
And what's the result of that chronic inflammation? Well, research has linked this lopsided ratio to a whole laundry list of modern chronic diseases. We're talking everything from coronary artery disease and high blood pressure to arthritis, autoimmune disorders, and even some psychiatric conditions.
Okay, but here's the good news. This is a problem we can actually fix. We can take active steps to restore that balance. And the path forward is pretty clear.
The solution is really a simple two-part strategy. First, you play defense. That means actively cutting back on your intake of high omega-6 seed oils and all the processed foods they're hidden in. And second, you play offense. Deliberately increase your omega-3 intake either by eating fatty fish a few times a week or by using a high-quality supplement.
So the big question is, how much do you actually need? Well, this chart from a group called ISFAL gives us some really clear science-backed targets. For most healthy adults, somewhere around 500 milligrams a day is a great goal for heart health. For pregnant women, you'll see a focus on DHA, which is crucial for the baby's brain. And then for people with higher risks or really high triglycerides, the doses get much bigger, but that's something you should always discuss with your doctor.
So, after this whole journey, from the frozen Arctic all the way to our own kitchens, it really leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world that's been so obsessed with avoiding fat, is it possible, just possible, that the most important fat for our health is the very one that most of us are barely getting any of?